Good evening and welcome to the week 5 lecture video. Let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda. Okay, cool. So as always, I want to start off by talking about the three-pronged approach to teaching research methods that I've developed. Prong 1 is teaching you about theory. And this mainly comes from you reading the textbook, taking the quizzes, and us reviewing the quizzes. Okay. Prong 2, the SPSS lecture notes. Once again, you don't need SPSS. You're just watching my lecture videos, okay, from my data analysis class. And you're recognizing the output and you're writing interpretations, because when it comes to the results section of your research paper, I'm literally going to run all of your analyses in SPSS, and I'm going to send you the output. And then my hope is that you're able to interpret the output, okay, based on your knowledge of statistics and data analysis, as well as, hopefully you could draw on what I teach in my SPSS lecture videos. But again, of course, I will help you through, and I will be providing feedback when you submit your results rough draft. The third prong is the actual research paper writing. And I'm teaching you how to write the research paper very slowly every week. We're just doing a piece of the paper. Okay, so this is coming through these lecture videos, through your discussion forums, and through other assignments. The other assignments being the rough drafts. And as you know, I'm periodically giving you feedback. My first round of feedback that I gave you had to do with your hypotheses, okay? And my next round will be after this week, when you submit when you submit your article summaries, I'll give you feedback on that. Beyond that, I'm just checking to make sure you do your discussion forums. But as a researcher, I know it's really important to be collaborative, to work with others. And that's the importance of these discussion forums. So when I tell you to write a certain aspect of your paper, so let's say it's an article summary or a reference, whatever you're doing for the week, do the best that you can. But also when you respond to your fellow students, really try to help them out. Be a peer, be a good collaborator. And I just want to remind you that your initial post should be about 200 words, and your responses need to be 100 words. Okay, so just count them. You can copy and paste your words into Word, and it will tell you how many words you have. So go ahead and shoot for that. I don't want to take off points for that, but I will if I have to. And again, if you're writing 100 words, that means you're actually putting in the effort to, help out your fellow student, give them very valuable feedback. And that's important as a researcher, that we do that. Let's go ahead and review the quiz. So quiz 2. Oh, I just want to reiterate something regarding the quizzes. So basically how it works, remember, you get 2 tries. You don't get your highest score, you get your latest score. And it says that in the quiz description. Furthermore, I'll be releasing the quiz results literally the minute after the quiz is due. So you won't see the answers until then. The reason for that obviously is, cheating. I don't want people, sending answers to each other. Not that you would, but something that has to be done. So let's take a look at, what do we call this? The quiz 2, topics 12 through 22 in the book. What can a novice researcher gain from a literature review? Okay. A researcher can gain a sense of what topics or approaches will be dead ends. And again, the key word here is novice. So novice means beginner. So if you're a novice in researching a certain area, so it could be depression, it could be autism, it could be group polarization, whatever you're studying, people have studied it before you. So it's important to see what has been studied, okay? What hypotheses there have been, what analyses have been done before that, which methods have been used to collect data. So it gives you a sense of what topics or approaches will be dead ends. So maybe people have looked into certain hypotheses before, maybe many times, and they just have found nothing. So that's probably your answer. Ideas for how to best structure the research report. Every research paper is an APA format. We went over this last time. Every single research paper has an abstract that's located in the same place, has an introduction, has a method section, has a results section, has a discussion section, has references, has tables, has figures, has appendices, etc. Okay? So how do you learn how to write APA style? You can look at the APA manual, you could look at the template paper that I provide and what we discuss in class, or you can literally look at other research papers that have been written that you found, okay? And those are going to be in APA style. Awareness of useful measures for investigating a question, okay? So if you're studying mortality salience, how did these previous research measure mortality salience? If you're studying self-esteem, how did the previous researchers measure self-esteem? If you're studying depression, how did these previous research study depression? So that's going to help you not only figure out what your hypotheses are based on doing your literature review, but figuring out how you want to construct your study, how you want to collect your data, meaning what settings, how you want to analyze your data, meaning statistics, right? Your results section, SPSS, all that. Which of the following would help prepare to search a database? Identifying relevant keywords to search. And this is really critical, and we have done this before, right? I believe it was last lecture video, it could have been the one before, where I demonstrated to you how to do a library search. Well, what did we do? We figured out the keywords. So if you're studying self-esteem and gender, those are two words you can search, and you're likely to find articles that you need that discuss the relationship between gender and self-esteem. Where in journal articles does a literature review typically appear? Okay, so a literature review appears at the beginning to frame the research. Okay, but literally for our purposes, what we're doing is, and I'll talk about this as we get there, but the first part of your introduction section is you're reviewing, you're discussing your main topic of interest. And how do you know what your main topic of interest is? It's the variable that's in every single one of your hypotheses. That's your main topic of interest. Okay, so the first part of your introduction, you're going to discuss your main topic of interest, and then you're going to state the purpose of your study. The second part of your introduction is a literature review. Literally, you're going to take all these article summaries that you did, and again, like we discussed last time, by the time you get to your final paper, you'll need 10 articles. Okay, so 10 article summaries. You're literally just taking those article summaries, organizing them with headers, and dumping them in that second part of the introduction section. And then the third part of the introduction section, you just quickly summarize the findings from your 10 article summaries, and then you state those 3 hypotheses that I approved for you. And then you're done with your introduction section. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. We're not there yet. So we'll cover that more in detail in the coming weeks. What can help identify important topics or themes in articles being reviewed? Headings used within the article. Yeah, and I literally just discussed this, right? So when you construct part 2 of your introduction section, the literature review, I want you to organize those article summaries by hypothesis, right? So if one of your hypotheses has to do with self-esteem and gender, you should have one heading that says the relationship between self-esteem and gender, and then you drop in all of those article summaries. And then maybe you have another set of articles that have to do with self-esteem and neuroticism. So all those articles would go there under that heading. And then maybe your last hypothesis has to do with self-esteem and religiosity. And then all those articles would go under that heading. Okay, so in that way, how do you identify important topics or themes in an article? You always look to the headings. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing in your paper. In assessing published studies, what can be assumed about the sampling? That the sampling method was less than ideal. Right, and we've discussed this before. It's very unlikely that you'll have a random sample from the population. Okay, it's more likely that you're going to have a convenience sample. So for example, our study personality and gay marriage attitudes, it was collected in large classrooms of undergraduate students who were taking introductory psychology. Okay, and what's the reasoning behind that? Those at UC Riverside at the time, and this is the case for many universities, have to participate in research or go to lectures to fulfill a research requirement. And of course, a lot of students want to participate in research because they're interested in psychological research, and perhaps they'd be interested in really pursuing research in the future. So that, when we're talking about personality and gay marriage attitudes, it was what's called a convenience sample. It was not a random sample from the population. But again, how do we conquer this issue? Through replication. Through studies being replicated, we're inevitably getting different samples. So if you look at the sample for personality and gay marriage attitudes, we haven't gotten to this yet, but the average age is 19. Asian Americans are overrepresented. So I think they're like 38% of the sample, which clearly doesn't represent Riverside County, where UCR is located, clearly doesn't represent California. So in that way, it's kind of a bias sample. But let's say, this personality and gay marriage attitudes is that type of study looking at those variables is done at other universities around the country, around the world. It's likely that average age is going to change. It's likely that racial breakdown is going to change, and other important demographic variables are going to change. And then we can implement a tool called meta-analysis, where we take all of those samples and we aggregate them or add them together and see the overall effect of whatever we're trying to study. So self-esteem and depression, right, as an example. Does self-esteem and depression just look different in our sample because we have a bias sample? Well, maybe, but then let's pull all these other samples together. And if we're still finding that same relationship, then that makes us feel better. It makes us feel like what we're finding is the truth, if you will. Including what at the end of a literature review can help readers grasp the point. A summary. And this is a summary that I call part 3 of the research paper. So part 2 is the literature review. Part 3, you summarize the findings, the main findings, okay, of your literature review, and then you insert the statement based on previous research, okay, which you literally just talked about. It is hypothesized that 1, 2, 3, all those hypotheses that have been approved for you. Which of the following requires a citation? Information found in an article. And this is what we're about to go over. So this will be very helpful for you as you're putting your article summaries together. Literally, when you're doing these article summaries, again, you're not quoting anything. Never quote in APA style. Always paraphrase. And you could either use a narrative citation or a parenthetical citation. And we're about to go over that. But yeah, you're always citing. How do style guides differ from grammar and usage handbooks? Style guides help ensure consistency, not correctness. So APA style guide is going to tell you the appropriate format in which to structure your paper and other things like how to do citations, etc. There's a lot in the publication manual, and that's called a style guide. But it's not going to help you with grammar or word usage or writing style. A good grammar handbook, if you will, or a handbook on writing style is called The Elements of Style by William Strunk Jr. and E.B. White. And E.B. White is the author of Charlotte's Web. Very short book, very helpful. I would recommend it if you want to be a writer. One of their main phrases that they repeat over and over again is omit needless words, and that's really important. First of all, don't use big words for the sake of using big words. Write simply if you can. Okay, that's a good lesson for us all. And get rid of extra words that don't need to be there. If you read some words in a sentence and you're like, wow, those words are actually doing nothing to communicate my point, well, then take them out. And it's very possible, maybe there's entire sentences that can be removed, okay? Because if you omit needless words, people reading what you write are, first of all, they're probably gonna read it if it's shorter and to the point. And second of all, they're less likely to get lost. What does it mean to operationalize a concept? Define a directly observable construct of the concept. Okay, how can we put this? If you want to study self-esteem and I want to study self-esteem, we need to operationalize it. Well, I did this in personality and gay marriage attitudes by operationalizing self-esteem as participants score on the Rosenberg self-esteem scale. So I operationalize self-esteem by using the Rosenberg self-esteem scale. Okay, so now when I say self-esteem, I'm pointing to the Rosenberg self-esteem scale. And you could do the same, so we're operationalizing self-esteem in the same way. Okay, but I'm sure there's other measures of self-esteem. Okay, but looking at the questions, maybe what they're measuring slightly different than the self-esteem that I'm measuring. What are continuous variables? Traits that can be described by numbers. That's fine, we'll leave that there. What are nominal variables? Traits being studied that are identified by name. Okay, so we'll take these two questions together. Examples of nominal variables from personality and gay marriage attitudes would include gender. Okay, you can't rank gender. Are males better than females? Are females better than men? No. Okay, so they're what's called nominal variables. In analyses, we give them numbers so we could do math on them, but the numbers don't mean anything. If I call females 1 and males 2, it doesn't mean that females are number 1 and males are number 2. Same thing with race. Okay, race is another nominal variable. Same thing with religious affiliation. Examples of continuous variables would be one that a lot of you are using, support for same-sex marriage. Okay, a score of 1, I believe, would be strongly disagree, as compared to 2, which would be disagree, 3, which would be agree, and 4, which would be strongly agree. So clearly, the ranking of those numbers matter, right? Order matters. So that would be one, self-esteem score, stuff like that. How many and of what types of variables will an experimental study have? An experimental study needs at least one dependent variable and one independent variable. And we talked about this a couple lectures ago. Okay, remember my study where 100 students with depression showed up to the laboratory, and then some were randomly assigned to the one condition and some to the other condition. Okay, well, the independent variable is what varies among the participants, right? So when I randomly assign some participants to condition A and some participants to condition B, that's my independent variable. Okay, what condition are you in? Okay, group, condition A. Okay, second group, condition B. So that's the independent variable. And the dependent variable is what the participants are measured on. And in the example I gave a couple lectures ago, it was on depression. Okay, so everyone has the outcome variable, the dependent variable, which was the measure of depression. And then regarding the independent variable of treatment, or which condition were you in, some people were randomly assigned to receive A and some B. Okay, well, go ahead and let me know if you have any questions regarding the quiz. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is, I think, pretty simple, which is great. We're just talking about references and in-text citations. So I have a really good example for you in Appendix A, and under the files, I include the complete document. But this is a nice little reference guide for APA 7th edition. Okay. You find the author's name. So this is going to be the author's last name, okay, comma, first initial. And if they have a middle initial, it goes there, comma, the and symbol, the ampersand, author's last name, comma, first initial, period. If they have a middle initial, there it goes, the year, the title of the article, the name of the periodical, the volume, issue, the page numbers, and then if it has a DOI number, which I think most do these days. When I was in undergrad and grad school, this technology did not exist yet. Okay, so I'll show you how in the example what this looks like. So that's a basic reference for a journal article, which are the only articles that you have to use. You're not pulling in books or anything like that. You're just pulling in empirical articles. So regarding in-text citations, if it's one author, if it's a narrative citation, for example, it would be Kinnon, which is my last name, 2020, found that, okay? So if you want, you can structure your paraphrasing in this manner. You can say Kinnon 2020 found that blah 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 blah. Okay, so you see narrative because it's part of the narrative. Parenthetical means it's in parentheses, Kinnon 2022. Okay, and parenthetical would fit at the end of a sentence or the end of a paragraph that you paraphrase. Okay, so that's just one author. If it's two authors, narrative, you see it's and, okay? If it's parenthetical, it's the ampersand. Just follow the structure. If it's three or more authors, you could just do Kinnon et al. 2020, found that. Parenthetical, Kinnon et al. Comma. So you see how it is. And what does et al mean? It means and all. So let's take a look at this. So this is just an example of an article summary that I did. That being said, I'm expecting more from you in your article summaries. This was something I did for grad school. It's a little shorter, but I want you, again, to explicitly include all the details that we talked about in previous lectures. Okay. So let's look at this. It looks like here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 authors. So notice, you see that form? So how would I know that? This is a screenshot. So step 1, find the names of the authors. Comma, J period, comma, Greenberg, comma, J. Okay, you see this? Okay, there are the authors. Okay, last name, comma, first initial. None of them have a middle name, comma, last name, comma, first initial, comma, last name, comma, first initial, comma, ampersand, last name, comma, first name, period. Okay, where's the year? So in the research article, the names are usually at the top. The year usually is, or it can be, at the bottom. So in the article, I found it at the bottom, and it says 1997. So there's your 1997. And again, this correlates with what I taught you up here. And then the title of the article, that's usually at the top. Subliminal exposure to death-related stimuli increases defense of the cultural worldview. Perfect, there we are. Step 3, find the title. Okay, we just did that. Step 4, find the name of the journal. This is usually at the top or the bottom. Okay, in this case, it was at the top. It's called Psychological Science. There you go. So follow that format. And then what step are we on? We're on step 5, find the volume and chapter numbers. So that was at the bottom of the research article in my little screenshot here. When we see it's volume 8, number 5, okay. And the placement for your articles might be slightly different, but you shouldn't have an issue finding it. Okay, and that's the, again, the volume and the issue number. Volume, issue number. And then page numbers, they should be quite clear. So let's see, step 6. So in this case, it looks like the page numbers were on the bottom. The first page number is 379. The last one's 385. So there you go. Just follow that process and you'll get your reference for your article summary. And for now, as you're doing your article summaries, just go ahead and leave this reference at the top. But as you, in the future, as you're doing your literature review for your introduction section, you're going to stick these references in the reference section of the paper, which is at the tail end. And you're just going to include your article summary with the narrative citation. Okay, again, you see how this is a narrative citation? And the parenthetical citation. So Arndt et al., and again, I did et al. Because it's what, 3 or more authors. Arndt et al. 1997 examined the mortality salience hypothesis, ... And here I just ended it with Arndt et al. 1997. And in your article summaries, you're going to have 3 paragraphs. Okay, you're going to have an objective section. So you can start with a narrative, in-text citation, and end with a parenthetical if you want. You have to do at least one. So you should have an in-text citation per paragraph. So the first paragraph is the objective. The second one is the method. The third one is what they found. And again, you can write them in paragraphs for now. Eventually, just kind of mold them into one page, if you will. So this looks like it's about a half a page, what I wrote here. Yours, I'm expecting yours to be 3/4 to 1 page per article summary. Okay, let's see. Yeah, we covered everything. So that's all I have for you on writing a reference for a journal article or an empirical article, and then doing the narrative and the parenthetical in-text citations. Now let's go ahead and look at the week 4 discussion assignment. Okay, so in the week 4 discussion assignment, I had you pick one empirical article that you found from the week 3 discussion assignment, and I had you summarize it. Okay, so you already have some experience there. Okay, and again, you already know the article summary guidelines, so we're good. Okay. So now what am I going to have you do in the week 5 discussion, which is going to be due Sunday by 11:59 p.m. Okay. I'm going to have you write an APA style reference for the article you summarize in your week 4 discussion post. Add in-text citations to your article summary and make adjustments to your article summary based on the peer feedback you received. Okay? So last time you did an article summary, okay? This time you're taking that same article summary, you're adding the citation, the reference, and then you're adding the in-text citations. And you're incorporating any feedback that you received from the last discussion. Okay, part 2, respond to 2 other students. Students you did not respond to week 4. Okay, compare what they wrote to the article summary guidelines and let them know if they missed anything. Also, please let them know if something is unclear and if possible, suggest a correction. Also, please examine their reference and in-text citations. Let them know if you see something that should be revised. Okay. So you have that due. You have the SPSS Lecture 3 notes due. Okay. And then you have the article summary assignment. I guess I could have gone here. Okay, instructions, create APA style references for the 3 articles related to your hypotheses, right? Because you need 3 for this. And I linked you to the reference guide, but it's exactly what's on the agenda. Pick 3 empirical articles you found in the week 3 discussion and summarize each article. And again, you can find new articles. Remember to follow the article summary guidelines discussed in the week 4 lecture video. And there they are, okay? So the requirement is to do 3 article summaries. And that's it. So go ahead and just write. That's really what you have to do. If you're scared or you feel like procrastinating, just don't do it. Just sit down and write and do the best that you can and get your discussion post out there and get the peer feedback, get your article summary rough draft in so then I can give you feedback. But the key is in writing, just do it. You just have to write, just do it. And don't be afraid. Okay. So I think that's the best advice I can give you. Don't procrastinate, just get it done. Okay. So email me if you have any questions. And as always, I have office hours this week. So I'll send out an email to remind you when that is. Okay. Well, have a great evening and have a great week. And like I said, I'm here for your success. So email me if you have any questions and then come to office hours. Take care.